What's going to happen to me if a couple of support payments don't come in? Because that is a very real risk that you have to be prepared for and you have to understand can happen.
The worst case scenario is myself and my children are going to live in a shelter and we're going to have no money. Maybe that's your worst case scenario. Maybe it's my worst case scenario is I won't have any money and my husband is going to take my kids from me. Maybe that's your worst case scenario. Look it in the eye. Look at your worst case scenario. This works for me. And then figure out a plan on how you're never going to let that happen.
Divorce can be emotionally and financially overwhelming. That's why I'm teaming up with Sunny Wishart, president and founder of a la carte Financial and a certified financial planner. We will show you how to understand all things money without feeling ashamed, overwhelmed, embarrassed. You will learn more, ask questions. No question is a dumb question. Welcome to Money with Sunny. Let's get into it.
Morning, everyone. We're welcome back again. I'm here with Sunny, and we're talking to you about all things money. Every week, you can listen to us to dive deeper, learn more, figure this money stuff out. And today, Sunny and I were chatting a little bit before the show, and we are here to talk to you about getting real. Let's get real with where you are at right now. What do you know? What don't you know? And why this is important. Sunny, why is money important?
Wow, that's such a loaded question. I love it. Well, let's say in the space that we're talking today, where we're informing and we're trying to get more knowledgeable, let's say perhaps you're someone who just isn't sure where they are today financially, and know that eventually, as you go out on your own, you're going to have to figure it out. So it's important to just, and we mentioned this in a previous podcast. If you listen to them going up, that look it in the eye. That's all we want to start with is laying eyes on your stuff and doing your due diligence of, okay, what does this look like right now? What do I know today? And the getting real component is this working? And we need to lay eyes on it and talk about, is this working or not?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have a couple little kids, or I have a part-time gig. Um, I, I have my husband works full time. Things aren't working out. We're headed towards divorce, and I can't even breathe. So you've worked with many, many women. I have worked with many, many women, and I've noticed that it's really hard to just sit down. Well, first, it's hard to get a few minutes to yourself, but but then give that to yourself. Give yourself some time to sit down and figure out, how much money do I need every month? How much do I spend every month? What do I need to earn to move forward? So, as you're working through the separation process, you may get some child support. There may be some agreement for financial support from your spouse. In all scenarios are different, but if you can use that money as gravy and decide right now that you're going to work real hard to be able to do this on your own, I think that is a great mindset and a great place to start. Because if $1,000 or $2,000 doesn't come in, if he doesn't make that payment, are you destitute? Are you just not able to buy groceries? That's not a good place to be. So it's a process, and you got to trust the process. But where would be a first start for a woman who is just thinking, I can't do this on my own?
So let's look at what you need to do. What is it you're trying to do on your own? Are you maintaining a lifestyle that was for your previous household? Or what is your future lifestyle going to look like? So let's figure out what are you trying to do, and then we'll figure out what you need to do. There, because if the kids are young, it depends on life stage. So if you've got a couple kids in daycare, well, that is a massive amount of money. Obviously, you'd be going to work if the kids are in daycare, or you have one kid in daycare, so you'd be working. But if or you want to stay home in childcare until they go to school. So, what do I need today? And what can I do for the future? And how many years do I need to do this too? It is very life stage oriented. And does this work? So, I want to stay home with my kids the next 2 years till I launch them in school. Well, how are we paying the bills? And like what you said, Wendy, what's going to happen to me if a couple of support payments don't come in? Because that is a very real risk that you have to be prepared for and you have to understand can happen. So, do I have that extra $1,000, $2,000 to float me in these situations as well? So, it's not just about making the monthly stuff keep rolling nicely. It's about the what if I don't get a payment? What if there's an extra expense I hadn't planned on? Am I going to be okay?
Hmm. Absolutely. And I've seen it, and you've seen it. So first step is, what's the first step, Sonny? Help these people out. What do I do first?
Well, let's get real about your money. Let's look at what are you capable of? What are you willing to do to make change? Because if these ends don't meet and you are just seat of your pants barely getting by, what kind of change are you willing to make? Let's make some cuts. Can we cut things? Can we increase where the sources of income come from? Let's look in your toolbox. What do you have in your toolbox to generate income? What can we do? Um, but I talk about the cuts first because oftentimes when I look at these lifestyle expenses, which is just the general money going out the door, there's room for some change, or there's just some stale dated expenses on there, extremely expensive cell phone bills or something. Like, let's change those. Can we get you out of that? Let's start there.
Start there. Okay. I found that when I was transitioning through divorce, one of the toughest things for me was the thoughts that come kept running through my head, like, uh, you you can't make any more money, you're not good enough. And some of that was coming from, um well, all of it comes from somewhere. So those thoughts were placed in my mind from my parents. Those thoughts were placed in my mind from my spouse. Those thoughts were placed in my mind um, from social media, from TV, from news. And I think that we get really stuck in uh, what we can and can't do, and it's black and white. So I'm very good. I can take care of the kids. I can't take care of the kids and work full time. I can't pick them up on time and work full time. I can't get a side hustle. Like, where do I even start with that? I can't, I should have. And these things stuck us from moving forward. So, so I think it's really cool to be able to listen to people like ourselves and realize that you're not alone. What you're thinking and what you're feeling and all this I can't is perfectly normal. But what we're saying to you is you need to sit down with a piece of paper and a pen or your phone or a journal or something somewhere by yourself, whether it's in the car, in a parking lot, or after the kids have gone to bed, out on your back lawn or anywhere, just somewhere quiet, and sit down and say, okay, this is the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is myself and my children are going to live in a shelter and we're going to have no money. Maybe that's your worst case scenario. Maybe it's my worst case scenario is I won't have any money and my husband is going to take my kids from me. Maybe that's your worst case scenario. Look it in the eye. Look at your worst case scenario. This works for me. And then figure out a plan on how you're never going to let that happen.
It's amazing.
And so, one teensy little step at a time, one teensy little step at a time, you're going to do what it takes to make sure that that doesn't happen. And when you face your worst case scenario in the eye and you write it down, there's something about it's all kinds of research to talk about how writing it down um, makes it look, you know, kind of hilarious, and not as devastating, and it makes it look uh, or it could make it look like really devastating, but something about writing it down helps you to move forward. So that really worked for me and has worked for me, and of course this is what I do, this is what I've learned 18 years later. And you're saying, yeah, yeah, okay, Wendy, sure, but as if I get it. But the thing is, we're here to tell you what's possible and let you know that you can do it too. Because if I can do it, you can do it. If Sunny can do it, you can do it. So first step, Sunny's saying, is get real, get that piece of paper out, and write down, um, what worst case scenario. But then that's my first step. So Sunny's first step from a money perspective is figure out your numbers.
Mhm.
Okay, so your numbers is, how do I do that? Like, how do I figure out my numbers? I haven't really looked at my numbers before.
So, to figure out numbers, I like to work what I call backwards. Don't try to build it from the bottom up. So, all you're going to do is say you have a checking account and a credit card that you use. You're going to look at last month's statement, print it, and you're going to look at where the money goes on those statements, where you're spending from. Make sure you have all sources that you've drawn from that month. So it's usually a credit card and a checking account, or usually where we spend from. And look at an entire 30 days. And that generally gives you where your money is going. And you can kind of highlight what is food, what is shelter, like the needs versus the wants, kind of highlight those out. And that is your indicator of what is it, what you need? Maybe not necessarily, but it's going to show you what it costs to keep going the way you are currently going.
Right. And do you think, as a woman who is just in the beginning of transitioning through divorce, should create a plan based on uh, what she can afford per month and needs, or create a plan based on needs, wants, and money coming in from spousal support and maybe parents and maybe friends? And how do we go about, in your experience, what's the best way? Let's tell them the best way to go about it, and then anything close. Everybody's different, every situation's unique and different, we know this,
Mm.
but what's the kind of best way to go about this?
100% that you need to live within your means for you, meaning you need to have enough money coming in to support what goes out for your standard of living. And any child support payments that come in and other money that comes in are gravy. So, and by gravy, I mean your kids might go to camp and you got to pay for camp. Perhaps that's included in your agreement where you talk about every situation is different, where he pays for half the camp, but you still have to pay for half the camp. Or so those support payments are to support your kids during their current time with you. They are not to support you and your lifestyle, your personal lifestyle. So you need to know that once the support payments stop, because they are finite, and ideally your kids do launch into the world someday, and you are still supporting yourself because it's never been a problem.
And how important is it to create financial independence for ourselves?
Out of the gates, yeah, always have your financial you don't know what's going to happen. I know that in this particular chat or in this podcast series, we're talking about separation and divorce, but I've got another handful of clients who are widows. And that is not something anyone likes to really talk about, but young moms who have found out the hard way that, husband was handling all the money for them, had the head in the sand, didn't get real about it, and then had to look at everything all by themselves. There's no one to help you then. And well, yeah, it's lots of us. But during those heavy emotions and what you're already all that grieving, and then you've got to look at statements and say, holy smokes, my husband had a real spending thing on this. I had no idea. And your name's on everything. So that's you letting go of your financial independence. And then you're left cleaning up an even bigger mess during an even worse time.
So I always say to myself, when's the best time to start? And best time to start was yesterday. And next best time to start is today. So what I'm hearing is, listen, make getting your money organized, make getting understanding your money not scary, learn, grow, and then you'll be able to feel this, I got this, because you got this. It doesn't matter if you have ever looked at this before. You have got this. You can do it. Keep following us here on our show. Sunny is just a phone call away, an email away. She can help you out anytime. Thanks for being here with us today. And Sunny, like I always ask you this, but what's one message, one takeaway that you think people need to hear today?
You said it in the beginning, get real.
Get real. All right, let's get real. We'll see you all next week.
Working with the right experts will help you learn and grow. If you want to learn more, check out this video. We will show you how to get into the right money mindset without being so hard on yourself. You've got this.